Hey yo guys, it's me, your friendly neighborhood shop tamer, checking in for a new thing. We're going to do a massive project and we're going to create a full custom biome, building, place, awesomeness of things and stuffs. So let's get into it. So now the idea behind this whole project is for me to create this massive Gothic mansion that I keep thinking of and I keep dreaming about. And it's an idea I've had for a while. So as you can see here, we're using World Painter to create this custom biome. Now this is my first time using World Painter, so I'm doing a lot of things wrong, I can see, whilst I'm just watching this back and knowing how the project went. But it's an amazing, amazing piece of kit that allows you to create this awesome custom biome scale that you could want. And I've got a lot of brushes that I looked through on tutorials for people like Cherrycraft and the brushes that they use, and just see exactly what I wanted. Now what I was looking for in this was to have like this sort of escape, this idea of having like this mansion escape somewhere in the middle of nowhere, basically on an island. And that's what I've gone for creating here. And I knew that I wanted to have sort of beach layout on the ends and to make sure that everything looked really Mediterranean-esque in the biome. It doesn't look Mediterranean in the end because I do change things about it. And you see that I go in, I refine some bits, and I make sure that the coves have a little bit more of a lining and some little inclines and that sort of stuff, just to give it a little extra pizzazz more than anything else. And I think it came out absolutely beautifully throughout all of this. And you can see that I'm putting in different materials to make the mountains just seem a lot more realistic when we go into the world. And the great thing about World Painter is you can go back and forth between the world and the World Painter project itself, just so you can actually see what's happening. And as you can see, I keep pressing buttons and making mistakes in the corner. We won't talk about those with this project, but I absolutely loved how this island turned out. And it's about time that we go in and we actually look at how this island turned out. So let's go on to the island. So this is our island here. It's absolutely beautiful and I love it. I'm really going to look into creating this Gothic mansion inside of this whole thing here. Now we're not going to use shaders for the whole time lapse because it would be a bit overpowering. But for this first bit, I just wanted you to see them in all their glory. So let's get into the building. So I started this project with this idea, and I've actually created this in a creative world beforehand so that I know what I'm going to build when I'm going forward. So this is how I know what sort of layout I'm looking for and what I'm going for. So this will change from my creative idea to this idea, but it's this large Gothic blackstone mansion using all of those new nether blocks that we got in the last update. Now this project took me a stupid amount of time, but this is just the floor plan layer, so I will discuss with you as we go through exactly what I was thinking whilst we're doing everything. And this first layer here is just sort of the main design for everything that you're going to see as we go up throughout the whole mansion. And I just sort of layer everything out with some stone brick as a nice foundation layer for us to use for everything that we're going to be going ahead with, so that you've got one block that you can see throughout. So these towers that we're creating throughout this whole mansion, they're kind of the staple of the whole idea of it. Now, saying that they're Gothic kind of lends the way to how you see this. Obviously, I'm using a lot of the blackstone and the blue blocks of the warp blocks, the warp stems, and the prismarine to just give that pop of color throughout this whole thing. And I really liked the elevation idea throughout different parts of this and playing with the layering that we use. Now you can see that we did have an issue where I forgot to change off the weather cycle. After this, you'll see it disappear very quickly. There we go. But we carry on with this whole idea of elevation throughout everything and making places that are next to it that are just sort of not as elevated as others, and offsetting stuff and not connecting stuff, so that you get this full feel of this mansion coming to life and that difference of how things work together, and playing with the whole emotion of it and making things smaller in places and larger in other places, taller and shorter in places, just so you get that idea that this mansion is different and there's an idea behind it of the sculpture of it just changing the way that you see things. Now this final back piece, I worked two towers into the one, just so you can see it together. Now this is a tall and short tower that have very similar designs initially, but then one just cuts off at a point, whereas the other continues to grow. And it just made me feel like it made more sense at that point, because you can see a lot more of the elevation ideas by that. And I absolutely love the design features that we've gone through throughout all of this to make it just have a different feel. Now the back of this mansion I wanted to keep pretty simple, and the reason behind that is you don't really look at the back of a mansion when you're thinking over how things look. It's kind of the back point of it, so it's not something that's very persistent in your mind that it needs to look as good. I still made it keep in theme, and I choose some very changing window sculptures to make it just have that extra elegance above everything else, but keeping in theme with the Gothic side of things. Now, as you can see, this is where we use a lot of the stone brick to bring it all together as a piece of the architecture. And I love the way that this back looked. And you may think it looks a little bit weird when we build this next part because it doesn't connect to anything, but we'll get there, I promise. Now, as I said at the start of this, we use World Edit to make things a little bit easier. So as you can see, the tower just comes in out of absolutely nowhere, just to make it a little bit easier, and we just copy and paste it across, which just saved a lot of time building this whole project. Now, the front of this mansion is slightly different, and you can see we're doing a little bit of video jiggery pokery here to build it at the same time. Now, this is going to tie the whole building together, and I really enjoy how this looks as a full piece. So I hope you enjoy the way that everything looks together, and you let me know in the comments if you have any other ideas that I should have done. Now, for this main point in the middle, I really wanted it to elevate and go up, and I wanted it to carry on. So I wanted these all to be entrances as if you're going into the mansion itself, because I thought that would play really nicely with how we're doing things. And I thought going up and having entrances made more sense. Now these towers here, they're something that I had dreamt of pretty much to have. And I really wanted to see the elevation go higher and higher with this mansion and just keep going up until the sky. Now, to make this work, there was two separate towers. As you can see, a little bit more video jiggery pokery to make this work, and a little bit of World Edit to copy and paste in places. And I think these towers really bring together the whole build itself. Now, as you can see in this middle point as well, we're just bringing it up and including everything that we wanted in this build, and still keeping with that amazing design and color palette that we've been working with all the way through. And I think it adds a really nice feature that we didn't have initially in this mansion, to have that main staple point and that height in the middle with something like this to just bring everything together in this whole build. Now, the final part of this build are these two domes that hang out at the back of the build, because I wanted to add something interesting at the back. And it's something that I'd been thinking of how can I add elegance to this build, but still make it something unique. And it's these two beautiful domes. They're perfect for what the build is, and they still carry on that elegance and that height that we've been using throughout the whole build. And I absolutely adore them. And yes, I do use World Edit to make the next one go in, because this project took a lot of time and it was a little bit of a cheaty hack. But as you can see, it turned out amazing for this whole build. There we go. That is the end of our major project. We've thrown in some trees around the place just to give the kind of feel of it when you're walking up this road here, is that you can see the house, but it's not like super visible. And I quite like that feel, and you can see out to the mountains kind of over through everything, but you don't see the house until you're here, and then it's like bam. It's massive, absolutely massive. Now obviously there aren't things around the back or anything, but we don't need to talk about that. That's all hidden by the house. But yeah, here we go. So let's do one last spin around in cinematic and in shaders. Let's go. And there we go. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and I hope you enjoyed this massive project that we took on. It has been a lot of fun to get done, and I've got to play around with World Painter and World Edit and get some new skills. So, we may do more of these in the future. If you guys like this, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.